being our presenting sponsor. Bankers Trust is such great supporters of the West Des Moines Chamber and the West Des Moines community, so we're excited to have them as our sponsor today. So with that, I would like to introduce Rob Reinhardt to say a few words.
Thank you, Anna. On behalf of Bankers Trust, glad that we can sponsor this. Bankers Trust has a long tradition in supporting and being inclusive in this community, having won I think the Greater Des Moines Partnership has an annual event. At their annual event, they announce the winners of inclusion, and Bankers Trust has won that on multiple occasions. It was interesting, the speaker we have today, the background, Alex Orozco is our Vice President and Fair Banking Officer, and she has a very similar background. I wonder if they are somewhere nearby because the background is the same, or they created the same background, whatever that is. But again, like during the PPP program, that's still running until August. But so far, we've done over 900 loans for $300 million and estimated that we've saved over 25,000 jobs during the process. So again, Bankers Trust has done a fantastic job. I've been with them for 27 years, and they've always supported and been inclusive in the community. So it's a natural for us to support this event.
Thank you so much, Rob. That's amazing that you saved 25,000 jobs, $300 million. That's incredible. And I don't know if you saw our news and our West Des Moines email newsletter that we just launched about a month ago. It comes out every Tuesday, but West Des Moines and our small businesses took advantage of that. As a matter of fact, in the entire state of Iowa, West Des Moines companies got most of that PPP, proportionate. So that's really great. Very supportive of our West Des Moines small businesses. I know this is a really challenging time for them, so it's nice to see that they were able to partner with banks like Bankers Trust and quickly get those loans. I know that was it was quite the process. So hopefully you're getting some sleep now, Rob, and able to, since that, I'm sure I've talked to a lot of bankers, and they certainly did a lot of long nights right in the beginning of that PPP process. So yeah, so thanks for all that you do, Rob, to support our community. It's hugely needed. Well, I am so excited to introduce Sanjita Pradhan and her team of the West Des Moines Human Rights Commission. I went to our last city council meeting, and she did an incredible presentation, and all of your board members also did a presentation about their background and their passion for this. And I was so just taken aback. It was amazing. All the incredible people you have involved is absolutely incredible. So right away, I'm like, oh my gosh, we need to do a business roundtable and have you present. We too want to support diversity, inclusion, equity. This is a key pillar of the West Des Moines Chamber. So it'll be something that we're going to weave throughout all of our programming, and also highlighting the Black and African American community. This is extremely important to us. So this is just the start of many, many conversations. And Sanjita, I know you were on our Business Toolkit series event too, where we talked about diversity, inclusion, equity, and we had a wide range of incredible leaders, thought leaders in the state of Iowa that spoke at that. And I think we had even some tears during that event. That was powerful. And you can see that on our YouTube channel, because we did record that as well. So I am going to now pass the baton over to Sanjita and your team. And thanks for being here this morning.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. I don't know, are you hearing some background noise? I think my boys are downstairs in the hot tub and they're doing oohs and ahs. If you hear them, that's them. But thank you so much for having us, Catherine. I think it speaks a lot about you to have noticed the power that we had in that room that day, and think about spreading that power to our community. So we're very excited to be here to share a little bit of our work. We've had quite a long journey, and we know that we have a long more journey to go. And we all understand and know that we can't do this alone. And that's why it's just very important for us to collaborate. I can also back up Rob on Bankers Trust, who does incredible work around the DEI space. So without taking further time in introduction, I will just try and share my screen real quick here and share a little bit about what Catherine was able to see that day. I believe you can see my screen now. Okay, I'm seeing thumbs up. Let me go to
Yes, looks perfect.
presentation. Oh, there we go. Okay, is that better? Okay, all right. So, so we're going to be talking a little bit about who we are, what we've been up to, what we've planned so far, and I'll talk about. And at the end, we want to discuss a little bit about what the business community can do and how we can best partner to make our community the best community that we want to see, the most inclusive community where everybody, from no matter what kind of background they are able to come here and thrive. So that's our big goal. First of all, again, I strongly believe in our team. This is like the power, I call this like the powerhouse team that we have in the city of West Des Moines. And I believe some of us are on the call today, and I'd like each one of them to take a quick minute to introduce themselves. And if there are some folks missing, I'm going to try and do justice by giving you a brief introduction of who they are and what they do. I'll start with myself. I identify as a first-generation immigrant. I came to the U.S. 13 years ago and came straight to West Des Moines, and being a long-term West Des Moines, I feel like my roots are in West Des Moines now. I'm become a true West Des Moiner now. I can't think of going anywhere. I love traveling, but I will probably not leave West Des Moines for some time until I really am forced to. And the day job, I work at the Greater Des Moines Partnership now as a Director of Diversity and Inclusion Initiatives. I recently was certified as a Certified Diversity Professional through the Institute of Diversity. I strongly believe and am passionate about social justice issues. I've worked at a human rights level, at the federal level with President Obama's Commission on Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. I also worked at the Iowa State Department of Human Rights, leading our Asian American Pacific Islander office. And then now I work at the Greater Des Moines Partnership as Director of Diversity and Inclusion. So that's all I'm going to talk about myself, and I'm going to pass it on to our Vice Chair, very capable, very awesome Vice Chair Mindy, to introduce herself. I have noticed that Lonnie is on the call, so I'll then pass it on to Lonnie and then call on anybody else who might be here. So Mindy?
Yes, so Mindy Baganaw. I have been a resident of West Des Moines for probably 7-ish years. I am a member of the LGBTQ community, and I'm also married to an immigrant to West Des Moines from Canada. So I have a lot of when I heard about the commission, I wanted to get to be a part of it because diversity and inclusion work has been very important to me, but I wanted to give something back to my community. During my work day, I work over in the West Des Moines Jordan Creek campus. I am a business risk and we just changed our name. I am a business risk consultant, and then I also am a member of their diversity and inclusion council within Wells Fargo, and I've also been chair of their Pride Team Member Network, which is their employee resource group. So I've done a lot of work with diversity and inclusion within the corporate space, but I wanted to join the commission because I wanted to bring that work into our community as well, just because I know how important it is to really work on that from both fronts. So that is what brought me here.
Awesome. Lonnie, do you want to take a minute to introduce yourself, please?
Sure, I will. And good morning, everyone. Happy Monday. Lonnie Daphne, and I too am a West Des Moines resident, longtime resident. Have had the pleasure of raising 2 amazing young men that graduated from West Des Moines Community Schools. I too do and spend a lot of time in the community, lifting up voices that are underrepresented or unheard, and so was appointed to the commission. This is my 3rd year as a West Des Moines resident, and again, person with passion around equality and equity and diversity, equity, and inclusion work. Was recently, last November, elected to the West Des Moines School Board. And again, they're looking to make sure, again, that those voices that are underrepresented have a seat at the table. I also spend quite a bit of time working with the Directors Council, the One Economy Report. Some of you may have been there. I co-chair the employment work group for that very, very important work. And again, when we think about, again, how we're lifting up others, that has been a passion in enjoying that work. And when I don't have anything else to do during the day, my day job, I am the Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at EMC Insurance Companies. And so super excited to be here and hope you all get a chance to engage in the work that we're going to share with you today.
Thank you. I did not see anybody else on the call from our commission, but I want to check and see if anybody's on the call. Milton, Dr. Salas, Heather, Chandler. I do not think they are here. So I will just try and do a little bit justice to their long list of accolades. But Dr. Rich Salas, he is the Chief Diversity Officer at Des Moines University, which is going to be coming to West Des Moines, so he's all excited about that. Heather Schott is a long-term friend and advocate. She worked at Principal for a long time as the Director of Diversity Initiatives. Her actual background is in actuaries, and she's gone back to that world now, but she's launching her own consulting services around diversity and inclusion, which when she's shared that information, would be happy to share with all of you. And then Chandler is our newest member. He just joined us recently. He's an attorney and he works at the state level. We are yet to formally meet and do an onboarding with him. But Milton Cole is I'm probably not going to do justice to his resume. He's like the long-term advocate in West Des Moines. He correct me, Lonnie, he was in the school board in West Des Moines for a long time ago. He talks about his experience marching during the civil rights movement in the bridge, and he has a lot of passion in this work. He is a pastor also. And does anyone want to add anything about Milton, or I don't know if I'm doing justice to people here, but that's briefly a little bit about our commissioners. Each one of us bring a unique aspect to this work. Dr. Rich Salas, obviously ethnically, he is Latino heritage. Heather is originally from Minnesota, but she's also part of the LGBTQ community and does a lot of work in the community. And Chandler, since he's fairly new, I haven't really gotten to know him a lot, but he is ethnically African American, and we have a white ally with Milton Cole so we try to have a good balance of gender and age and ethnicity and race and all kinds of diversity in our commission to bring that perspective. Our council liaison is no other than our own Renee Hardman, which all of you know, and we're so thankful to have her as our council liaison because she can be a great advocate for us at the council when we are discussing ideas and topics, and when we need to work with our council to move our agenda forward. And I don't really have to talk more about her. As all of you know, she's like the greatest advocate that we have in our community. Our staff liaison, Laura, I think she's on the call, but she's another rock we have. Without Laura, we could not have done this work. She's always been there. She's very responsive, supportive, great leadership skills, and we're very thankful to have her in our team. Tom Haddon, as all of you know, is our city manager, and he's attended a lot of our meetings. Without him, we would not be successful either. And so I'd like Laura to take a minute to just introduce yourself, Laura.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, because half the time the sound doesn't work. Hi, I'm Laura Revelis. like she said, staff liaison. Got my mask on here at work. Yeah, I'm just here to assist and help move things forward. This is a volunteer-based commission, so everybody's got their fabulous full-time jobs, and this is my jobs to help support them as best I can. And I also help internally with some of the work we're trying to move things forward with policies, as well as staff and trainings and education, whatever we can get done here. So I've been with the city for 4.5 years or so now, and I'm the assistant to the city manager, so I work directly for Tom. So yeah, that's me.
Thank you, Laura. We could not have done a lot of where we are at without you. She's always been there. She's very responsive. She's a thought leader for us. I can pick up the call anytime and discuss things with her, and she's always available. And so thank you very much, Laura. I know we took a little bit more time just introducing ourselves, but this is a big part of who we are. Without this team, we would not be able to set the things that we are setting to do, and we would not be able to accomplish any of the things. I just really thought we needed to take that time to introduce our team. But this is our mission statement that we painstakingly crafted in the last year or so during our strategic planning process. So our mission statement is West Des Moines Human Rights Commission influences and advocates for community and government systems to ensure an inclusive, equitable, and thriving community. And the 3 goals that we are set out to do is educate, engage, and connect. What do we want to educate? We want to educate the community about the role of West Des Moines Human Rights Commission and diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts in West Des Moines. I want to put a backdrop for you all on this work. Nobody talked about West Des Moines Human Rights Commission about 2 years ago. There was a commission. It was there. It was quiet. It was just meeting. It was doing, just doing minimal things. And so I had the opportunity to join the commission. It's been a while now, like almost, Laura knows exactly how long I've been here, and I don't even keep track of it. But when I joined, I was almost leaving because it wasn't really doing much. And so I had seen the opportunity for the commission to do more, to do bigger things, to have a big role in the community. And then that opportunity to take the chair position came around. I took the opportunity, and we brought in a lot of new commissioners who are, as you see, very passionate about the work, very capable, and able to help us move our agenda forward. So when we all came together, a bunch of new commissioners came together about 2 years ago, we knew we had to go through a process to get to know our role better. Many of you might know this or not. When you go to the commission like this, all you're given is a paper, a couple pages of paper, an ordinance that defines broadly a charter that says this is your role, and it's very broad, and it's broad, but it's not narrow, and you can't pinpoint and say these are the things we can do or we should be doing, and this is how we measure, and that was a problem for us. And knowing that many of us were new in the commission, and we all came from different parts of life, and we all had a different view of what should West Des Moines look like, what's the most important topic in West Des Moines, what are the top priorities in West Des Moines we all should work. We knew we had to spend a little bit of time together understanding that role, dissecting that role, and making sure we heard all of our voices to come to an outcome like this, to be able to say this is a set of goals we all feel that we need to work on, is all important for us, and we all agree on it. So it was a very painstaking process, but we did almost spend a whole year going through strategic planning process, because we are, again, volunteer commission. We meet infrequently. Before, the commission used to meet at quarterly, and then we went bi-monthly, and then we started meeting monthly because we had so much to talk about. And so these are the set of mission statements and goals that we all feel very good about for now, until we all know these things need to be regularly checked and reframed. So number two, we really feel like we need to help engage with the community and build relationship across diverse networks. All of you know that in West Des Moines, we have a perception that we're not diverse, that oh, there's no diversity, really, and everybody's affluent, and there's no need in our community, and really don't need to help anybody. There's no need to help, right? And I think that's a myth and that's a lie, that we all know that our community has become more diverse than ever before. And we want to make sure our city sees those community members. They know how to reach to them, and they have their voices heard during process like the comp plan, or when they're building stuff. You know, what do diverse communities need? We want to make sure their voices are heard. And for that, we have to start with engaging with them. Without engaging with them, they're not going to, their voices are not going to be heard. So that's our second goal. And the third goal is to connect with citizens and become a trusted commission. Again, at this time, lots of diverse communities and people don't come to West Des Moines for many things now. Like, they don't think of West of the city to go to the city for complaints, or if you look at the participants in these city council meetings, we know that it's predominantly the dominant group, which is a lot of white people attending these, which means they have their voices heard in these processes. And so we want to make sure that at the end, after 5, 6, 7, 10 years or more, that we see two-way communication with diverse communities, and their voices are heard in the process. So these are our 3 goals. And then our objectives over the next 3 years is number 1, to develop clarity and structure and systems to support our mission. Again, talk to you a little bit about how the commission was, just really there was no clarity over the roles. There were no strong structures around our roles in the system. And so that's something that we're set out to do, to make sure we set up very clear structures and systems so we can support our mission. Become a diversity, equity, and inclusion resource for West Des Moines citizens and civic leaders. As you can see, we have a powerhouse of D&I practitioners and leaders in our group. We want to be available to bring that education to all of our community. And we will talk about a little bit more about how we can do that with the business community at the end of this presentation. And then lastly, to support city services, programs, and planning efforts to ensure a safe, inclusive, and equitable community for all. So there's a lot of process that's happening here, and I think in the next few slides, Mindy will be able to talk a little bit about what all of these mean. I'm just going to touch on 2019 to current. That's what we've been doing. I talked a little bit about our strategic planning process. Again, relationship building with the city is huge. We've always been clear to our city manager and city staff that we are just a volunteer commission, and we will never be successful in anything we do if we don't do things in tandem with them, if we don't collaborate with the city. We are here as an expert on these issues. We want to help the city to build that expertise, like Catherine mentioned earlier. We strongly believe that D&I should be weaved into everything you do. And at this time, we know there's some, but not all, and we can do better. And that's what our commission is set out to do, is help each of our 13 departments to say, where is the diversity inclusion index indicator? What can we do to help build a diversity inclusion indicator in all your planning, in all the activities that you do? So that's going to be a big process for us. We have participated in many of their city activities, like the walkability. Was it a conference or something that Mindy attended? Number of us attended a number of the comp plan meetings that was happening, and we could bring a very different perspective to that conversation. Hopefully that wasn't there before. We also encouraged our city to join this national organization called GARE, which is Government Alliance on Race and Equity. And so we are now our city is a member of this national organization, where where there's a lot of thought leadership happening. Laura works very closely with CARE, with peer organized. There's a lot of learning we can have from peer cities across the nation. And so there's more work to be done, and this process is just starting. And we already hosted a joint workshop last year with City of Des Moines and West Des Moines Human Rights Commissions, and more than 60 individuals who are mostly in the leadership roles across city departments attended that training. So in the community awareness and training side, I will just highlight that we have set out to set an annual calendar of inclusive holidays, recognition days, memorable days, and there are a couple things we can do to highlight. One, I would be happy to share that with you, and if we all do the same thing, let's say August is coming up. August is Women's Equality Month, right? And I think we have an ADA. Today is probably the 30th anniversary of ADA or some. So those things, like how can we amplify these things through social media or even events? Can we do lunch and learns? How can we all say the same thing, steer the boat in the same direction to get that traction, right? So we would love to chat with you and work with you to do the same things across the board. Every month is something month, right? There's Pride Month, there's Asian Heritage Month, there's Black History Month. Every month is something, and multiple things in some months. Even if we do a social post highlighting the month, the day, maybe bringing in stories of local individuals who have lived through those events, or share their experience, we would be doing a lot by just doing those things. We can start there and we can move to something more tangible in future. I don't know if you are aware, but we hosted for the first time in the history, we hosted an annual Martin Luther King Day. It was a very, very stormy day, but we all weathered the storm, and we still had, in my opinion, for the storm we still had a great attendance, and we are looking to make this event bigger and bolder every year, and we would love to continue that partnership with you. There are a few other events, signature events in West Des Moines, multicultural signature events in West Des Moines that we are set out to do, and we'd love to think about how we can partner with you to again collaborate. All of us don't need to do multiple events, right? I think we're a smaller city. All of us are strapped with resources and financial resources, human resources, and that's where we really would love to collaborate with you. I'm gonna take you to the next slide. I think I feel like I'm talking too much, and pass it on to my amazing colleague here, Mindy, to talk about the next few slides. So thank you.
So for our 2020 plan, obviously we have had a little bit of a wrench thrown in that plan with everything that's been happening with COVID. It certainly changed how we look at our events. However, it didn't really change our ability to have these events and to continue our work, just because everything we do can be turned virtual and things like that. So we've really been trying to continue with our work through all of the challenges that we've had. So just some of the things, I won't read through everything, but some of the real focus this year is those relationship building pieces. So we are doing these conversations. We started with a conversation with City Council. The chamber here is our second conversation, and then we're later hosting a conversation with different stakeholders within the community, really to start this discussion of here's who we are, here's what our plans are, and how can we help you, and how can we collaborate, how can we work together. We've also started to have those conversations with city staff, really bringing in the leaders of each one of the groups to say, what kind of things are you doing? Where are you seeing challenges? How can we help? I think a lot of this is this first year of our work here is just starting to build those relationships to say, here's the expertise we have. How can we fit in? How can we bring that to you? working with the city with our community awareness and trainings, things like that. Our city opportunities are a little bit different because we had initially worked on helping to support some of the local, like Sanjita said, the local signature events that groups have. Obviously, some of those have been kind of pushed out to future times. However, we've been looking at how can we change, how can we still provide things. One of the first things we did this year was partner with the library to create an anti-racist book packet. So with those, the library is currently in the process of building those packets, but we went through and there are I think 3 levels of books. The first set is for kids up to 12 years old. So a lot of books focused on younger kids, getting them kind of racial awareness and learning about, kind of putting them in front of different faces than what they might see on their day-to-day basis. Then there's a teenage set, so for the 13 to 18-year-old set, and then there's an adult set of books that's broken down between intermediate and just a beginner book. So with that, there's going to be, the library will be able to have about 10 of those to check out. And they provide, like I said, a lot of different books depending on where your level is. And it's a great opportunity just for the city to have those trainings available at any time, a great way for that training and stuff and education to continue even when we can't meet in person. We also have, like Sanjita said, that annual calendar. We're still working on partnering with the groups to really bring that calendar to life and start seeing how we can amplify those events. And then because of the work that we have outside of our work within the West Des Moines Human Rights Commission, we have a lot of opportunities to share speakers and events that we are doing and that we're bringing through with our work. So a lot of that is to say, hey, we're going to have an event with this speaker. How can we work with the city to see if we can bring that conversation to the city as well. So that's one of the things we've also been focusing on, is how can we bring our day-to-day work and share that with the city as well. And then for the city portion, we've just kind of been working with them on reviewing their annual plan, trying to help them build up that diversity and equity plan for the city, and just using our expertise from all of the work that everyone has done in their own businesses to bring that understanding to the city as well. Sanjita, if you want to treat it over to the next slide. All right, and then a lot of this really is kind of forward going, a lot of the work that we're looking to do. Some of the, like Sanjita had brought up, one of the things that we are really focused on also is utilizing the GARE work with their toolkit to really look at all of the programs and procedures that the city does to help kind of give that lens of diversity and inclusion to that work, to make sure that when we're rolling out events and things like that, we have that diversity and inclusion lens on those. Make sure I've grabbed everything here. But really, what we really want to focus on is those relationship buildings. We know that between all of us and everyone within the community, there are tons of opportunities to share best practices and to really work to become trusted resources for each other. And that's really what we want to focus on through all of our work, is that not only are we working to be a trusted resource for the different underserved communities within our within West Des Moines, but we also want to work to be a resource to business communities, to the city community, really want to be available for everyone. Although we are a volunteer organization, volunteers, we haven't tapped ourselves out anywhere near yet. So we these conversations are really just to let you know that we are here. We want to bring our work to you, and we want to help you bring your work to the rest of the community. So that's kind of our focus going forward. With that, I will go ahead and bring it over to the question and answer section. Some of the things that we really wanted to keep your thoughts on are how can we focus on education and engagement and I can't see that last one. Oh dear. And connection. So how can we help to assist your businesses with your chamber? How can we help bring these focuses to the work that you do?
Yeah, I mean, I will just add a few things. I think I already, were you done, Mindy?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Mindy. And just to elaborate, already touched on it a little bit, but again, we cannot do this work alone. Everyone is trying to do DEI work now. Corporations are doing it, chambers are doing it. Sorry, there's a loud noise outside here. If you can hear me, sorry. Bad timing. But like I said before, I think we're a smaller city. How can we collaborate, right? Like, I think even our corporations, all of them are doing DEI presentation, programming. Is there an area for collaboration? One thing that Mindy talked about in one of our previous slides here was, just how we can, all of us are doing DEI work in our professional lives. And when we host an event, sometimes I bring a speaker for my work, and then I pitch it to our commission and say, I think the speaker is going to be great if we can do this at the city of West Des Moines. And we hosted one before on race and equity. And we had the room was packed. It was around race. It was 2 years ago. This was before George Floyd. It was a long time ago. And there were about 60 people. Nobody left the room before 2 hours. It was a 2-hour session. There was a lot of our team leaders, our sector leaders, department leaders from the city. And I was impressed. It was a Friday afternoon. Nobody left the room before the 2 hours. There was a lot of engagement. There was a lot of interest. We had school board members attending. So that sort of thing. I think there is possibility to collaborate in that sense. Again, engagement, I think, in all of those events and activities that we're set out to do, we can have this further conversation with the chamber, but also the whole business community on how we can do that together. Everybody's strapped with time and resources. We would love to do some of that. There are some sponsorship events that are bigger and need more sponsorships, and we can only do so much, and we'd love to stretch those dollars, pull everybody's dollars to make our event bigger. MLK Day event, there's a Taste of the Junction event, there is Cinco de Mayo is the only multicultural event that we actually have in West Des Moines in Valley Junction. So those are things that are already happening. Do we need to create another one? We don't know. Do we need to have another inclusion summit of our own? I don't know. So those are all possibilities, but just wanted to spread that, just share this information that we're set out to do, and we really just can't do this alone, and we would actually be able to go further with all of us together. Since Lonnie is on the line, Lonnie, is there anything you want to add to our conversation here before we move into the Q&A? Or
Nope, I would just, concur with what you shared. Collaboration certainly is going to be necessary, especially as Mayor Gare and Tom Haddon, the city, start to get heavily involved in the work. For example, there's a task force right now going on from the mayor's pledge. So there's a lot of voices being asked to weigh in on this. So really the collaboration is going to be necessary from the West Des Moines community to make sure, again, as we started when we said, making sure that West Des Moines is welcoming to all of its residents. It is definitely going to take us all to collaborate to make sure that happens.
so we'll turn it over to your team, Catherine, for Q&A. Or
yeah, absolutely. And we already have a question in the chat box. And Erin, actually, if you would like to unmute yourself and say hi and ask your question, you can go ahead and do that.
Good morning. Thank you guys for being able to be in on this. I was asking, so I currently serve on the West Des Moines Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. So I was just curious if you had, and I know you're talking to department heads, but just from an advisory board member perspective, you know, do you have any thoughts on things the Parks and Rec department staff programming? What are things that we need to not be letting fall through the cracks and forgetting
Yeah.
when we make park plans or when we have programming plans?
Yeah. I'll take a stab and then I'll let my team members chime in. Thank you, Erin. Erin, you and I worked together at the Status of Women. I'm not sure if you remember me then. You served as a commissioner there, right? Office of Status of
Yeah, I
Women.
did. Yeah, I remembered the name. I just couldn't
Yeah.
remember. Like, is that the same person?
Yeah, we hadn't really gotten a chance to meet in person. So I knew you were a West Des Moiner. So
Yes, ma'am.
glad to meet you again in this capacity. So interesting thing about Parks and Recs is a majority of the users of Parks and Recs are diverse audiences. I don't know if folks knew this fact, and that Parks and Recs has a huge opportunity to reach out to our diverse communities. And so the short answer is absolutely yes. As we move ahead with our strategic plan, building relationship with departments, we will definitely keep this in mind. There are multiple, in our minds, there are multiple ways that we can actually collaborate. So definitely yes. I also want to give Laura an opportunity to see if she wanted to add anything to this whole conversation before we moved forward. I apologize. So we'll connect for sure, Erin, on that.
Awesome. Love that. We have another question from Rose. Rose, if you want to unmute yourself and ask your question next.
Yes, thank you. First of all, again, thank you for the excellent work that the Commission does. It's just so important to our community as we move forward. My name is Rose Bruce. I work at McGowan, Hurst, Clark & Smith. We're a certified public accountant and business advisory firm. And my question is, what would be a very first step that a company could do to begin creating an awareness or a stronger culture that would include diversion and equity and those kinds of things? What could we do to begin doing this?
Great question. Again, I'll start, and I know we have experts here, Lonnie and Mindy can chime in. So that's a great question, Rose, because that is the question of the what, I think, the whole year. Lots of companies are asking this question now. There are companies who've been doing this work for a long time. There are companies who haven't thought about it, but I think a lot of companies have started to ask this question, and it's a great question. The caution from my side would be a lot of times companies, organizations think, oh, we really need to do something around diversity inclusion, and they just start doing events. They start doing events, or they start doing something, and there is no plan behind why they're doing what they're doing. There is no rhyme or reason. Like we just need to do this. We just have to do this training, and that's good for short term. But in the long term, it will lead to what's called diversity fatigue. People will say, "Oh, this training is not working. Oh, another diversity training. I didn't really get much out of it." So there are a couple of things that I always advise to do is take some time to lay a strong foundation to your DEI work. What does that mean? You really have to have your leadership 100% bought in. And the leadership they will have their own learning curve. They will have to join your meetings. They will have to do their own learning. They will have to be your strongest advocate. And that's number one. Like in our case, I will say, and I don't want to speak for Tom, but if Tom has his own journey to be in this work, and he's attended lots of our meetings, and that says a lot about him, right? Like if he didn't attend our meetings, we would be questioning him, and he would not be able to be the best leader possible. So I think that's first and foremost. And number two is to take some time to do. Most companies, even now, don't have a diversity inclusion plan, and they just have like events and trainings, and that will not be successful in the long term. So I would say there are resources out there, there are consultants out there. In our website at the Greater Des Moines Partnership, we have a toolkit. We are coming out with an updated version of the toolkit with some of the information I'm mentioning now. In the next few weeks, that will be available. We'll be happy to share with Catherine, and Catherine can share it with your whole team. But really taking the time to create a diversity and inclusion plan, which has measurable goals and outcomes. That's really something that you'll be surprised that lots of companies don't have that, and that leads to fizzled outcomes. It leads to fatigue. It's not very successful. So those are top two things that I would say, and allow my team members to chime in here if anybody wants to chime in. Lonnie and Mindy. Mindy's unmuted.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Lonnie.
Okay, thanks. Really, and then what I would say is there has to be an appetite or a readiness to even broach the topic. So when you think about, how do we create a culture, there has to be a culture that would be open to even having the discussion. So really assessing readiness, assessing culture would be a place to begin. But also, as you think about, the comment was around awareness. Awareness, again, would be what's happening outside of the walls of that organization. And so if you're saying what's the awareness, current events, or, just even within the community, having a stake in, how do we get involved inside of this community brings a broader awareness. But I would agree that there definitely has to be a plan, and it has to be linked to a business driver, so that isn't treated as a flavor of the month, or it's a project, it's an initiative. It definitely has to permeate the culture and be a part of the organization, because believe it or not, most oftentimes when we think about what does diversity mean, most oftentimes people just go to the primary dimensions of diversity, which are legally protected, and stop there, when in fact diversity is so much more, and it's such a broader conversation, that when the realization is that everybody has a diversity story, and what is my story, that openness to dig a little deeper in what that means and what that definition of diversity means creates that awareness, that engagement, and that's where easier and open conversations happen around the topic. So that would be what I would add.
I'll just add one quick thing. Focus on making sure that you have different opinions at the table. If your business doesn't have people with diverse dimensions, if you find that your business tends to be majority white with no disabilities, no LGBTQ status, then the first step is to start and take a look at why. Why are there not diverse voices that can be brought to the table? But in everything that you do, I would always suggest make sure that you have the biggest range of diverse voices at your table, because they're going to pull out things that you may not have realized or you may not have thought about, and they're going to really be able to do that. One of the things that we've found really successful is listening sessions. Start with those diverse voices and say, what are we missing? What are we not seeing? And that will really start to drive where you need to focus your changes when it comes to that culture.
Yeah, I missed mentioning, which both of our commissioners touched on, is that you have to make sure that it's tied to the bottom line of your business, right? Sometimes diversity inclusion work can be viewed as just fluff, right? Just, oh, they're fun, they're doing fun things, they're having fun and food, and they're telling stories. It's not. We have to come out of that mindset, and we have to create a business strategy. I've met a lot of CEOs these days who say, oh, that's all good, business strategy is all good, but we really want to do it because it's the right thing to do. And I say that's half the battle won, right? Like the CEO saying it's the right thing to do and we really want to do is have the battle won, that's not a good enough strategy that will take you long term and be sustainable. Because there might be stakeholders, there might be employees, there might be other people in the network who might not think it's the right thing to do, and that then it will not be successful. But if you are able to articulate why this is good for business, that it will lead to retention, which means it will save money for the organization, that you were able to attract top talent, because guess what, 75% of your workforce in the next few years are going to be millennials, and more than half of them don't identify as white. And if we know anything about millennials, they have stronger values. They'll pick their organizations. They pick their organization based on their values, aligned with their values, things of that nature, right? There's so many reasons. And so if we cannot articulate business reasons why we're doing this, that it will save us money, and it will bring us top talent, and it will grow our company, and it will lead to innovation, things of that nature, that will help us to get buy-in from everybody, all stakeholders, and it will be sustainable. I think we went long on that answer, but it was an important question.
It is, it really is. And I love what you said about putting an actual plan together and not just throwing a few events together, because I think we need to be so much more intentional about it so that it remains a priority long-term. And like you said, it doesn't just fizzle out after we've had the same, training a few years in a row. So, two quick things. Bobby said in the chat box that Women Lead Change Fall Conference has sessions focusing on DEI. So she would love to share this with the group. And then we do also, which is an awesome idea, Bobby, I love that. And then we have one more question from Rachel. Rachel, if you want to unmute yourself real quick and ask that, we'll get that in here quick.
Yeah, hi, thanks you guys. This has been a great conversation, and I'm really glad that we continue to engage in these. So Catherine and team, thank you so much for kind of leading the charge on this. So I work for the city of West Des Moines as well in community and economic development, working with a lot of businesses as we talk about talent attraction and workforce development. I think a big focus for us now is to demonstrate that we are an inclusive community. That said, I mean, we can see it, we experience it every day, but when we're marketing to an outside audience, we don't have as much time to tell that story. So what are kind of the ways that we can demonstrate, either through visual, graphic design, through small pieces of content here and there on social? What are some of the ways that we can be demonstrating to an outside audience that we are indeed an inclusive community and want to continue to build upon that?
Yeah. Lonnie or Mindy, do you want to start that, or do you want me to take a step first?
Yeah. So, what I would say is, representation matters. It certainly matters. And what West Des Moines, I think is starting to catch up with is, for example, if going to a outside group, who's marketing the city, who's marketing the job. Yep. And so, for example, if you're going to, you're recruiting at an African-American event, if you don't have any African-Americans with you, that representation is lacking. And so to say from that voice, you would want to have that voice present. Now, it may not be that it's necessarily always available. So what I would say is what needs to happen then is the recruiting of who are our recruiters. And so I, for example, as a West Des Moines commissioner, have been spending time helping the police force with their recruitment efforts, because as I'm talking to African-American candidates, I can share the African-American experience in the community, as well as when they're asking questions around, faith-based questions, where do I get my hair cut, where my kids go, etc. I'm able to honestly answer that question from a genuine place of representation. So I do think it matters visually, but I also think it matters from a voice perspective. I think it means also getting creative. So, you know, if there is a diverse group of people that, you know, when you bring the candidate in or the company in, hosting a networking event so that there's multiple faces, voices in that crowd or in that space, so that person gets to genuinely ask and get answers from that lens, I think matters. So, you know, I sitting in the seat in the HR space and recruiting, Iowa absolutely is a great place to be. Des Moines is a great place to be. West Des Moines is even equally greater place to be. And so the ability to sell the city itself and the why we're here, and again, that representation, it's really critically important to be intentional about how you're representing yourself. And if, again, there isn't a face or a voice available, I would say you should be really diligent in getting one, because representation does matter.
Absolutely. I'll just add a few things to that. It's two things, right? Like talent, we're trying to attract talent, but we're also trying to attract businesses, right? It's all investment, it's about growth. And so when people are trying to relocate, what do they look for? I mean, for me and many others who have, they're just not going to look at one thing. They're going to choose place first and then the job second, truly. And so they're going to look at things like, is there a grocery store that I can go to? Is there a community that I can be a part of? Nobody wants to be alone in this world, right? They want people, they want to hang out with people of their kind. They want to celebrate their own festivals. They want people to celebrate with. They want to be able to go to their house of worship. They want to be able to buy groceries. They want to be able to do hair. For African American community, that's a big deal, right? We've heard of things like I have to go to Chicago every time to do my hair. I mean, that's not very convenient. Eventually, this person's going to move out, right? Things of that. And schools, like what kind of schools do we have? Do we have inclusive schools? Do we have diverse schools? I have personally heard many families, many people move out of West Des Moines to go to Des Moines because they wanted their children to go to a more multicultural school. And so those are things that people look for. And so it's not one thing, it's a lot of different things. And that's kind of why we all have to work together. But that storytelling, Rachel, is so important. And that storytelling with representation is very important because, you know, people notice those kind of things. Just driving by, and we've talked about landmarks, right? We've talked about in our city of West Des Moines, driving by, for example, when you drive in Des Moines, when you see, oh, there's a Lao temple here, oh, there's a Chinese garden here, like multicultural landmarks, people who want their children, even white people now who want their children to grow with multicultural societies, notice those kinds of things. My company does a lot of executive tours for different companies, and we had somebody who was coming in, very high level positions. It was Pride Month, and they were really surprised to see the Pride parade happening in West Des Moines, in Des Moines, because when people think of Des Moines, they think about a small community, very closed community, and not very open, especially to things like Pride, you know. And so those make a difference in talent attraction. It's a lot of different things. So hope we gave you some things that we hadn't thought about before.
Awesome. Thank you. That's all very important. And it's layered. I mean, we need a lot of people working towards this, and you guys have, you know, vamped this up so much over the past few years, and I'm so excited to see all that is to come with it. And we as a chamber, I think you could see in some of the comments up at the top in the chat box, we're so excited for different things that we can partner on and figuring out where our role can be in DEI. So thank you for answering those questions and for everything today. And I'll hand it back over to Bailey here.
Yeah, thanks so much, Kara. Thanks so much for leading that. And thanks so much, commissioners. I think that's your official title, right? I didn't want to say it wrong. Thank you so much for that program today. That was fantastic. And thank you for everyone who's attended today. This is being recorded and will be on our YouTube, and I'll share the link afterwards if you want to share it with anyone else. And Sanjita, please let me know if there's any resources or anything you want me to include in the follow-up email to the event today. and we won't go over our future events, Nicole. I'll just send them out in the follow-up email as well, since we're running over. Don't want to keep people any longer. So thank you so much to everyone.
Thank you. Thank you for having us, and we look forward to partnering with all of you.
Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate the information. Amazing. So excited to partner with you in the future. So let's get together and put a plan together.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.
Have a great Monday. Thank you, Bankers Trust. Thank you, Rob.
You're welcome. Have a great day.
Have a great day, Rob.